welcome to Eye on Ocean County. I'm Laura Jones, and today we're going to be talking about autism. New Jersey has the highest rate of autism in New Jersey. Our guest this half hour is Jim Paone. He is the Board of Trustees President for Autism New Jersey. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, a little bit about Autism New Jersey and how you got involved with this.
Sure.
You have a personal story.
I do. Autism New Jersey is the current incarnation of COSAC that's been helping people with autism, the Center for Outreach and Services to the Autism Community that's been helping people with autism in New Jersey for over 40 years.
And again, we have one of the highest rates in the nation, and we've seen a lot of awareness. I think it's 1 in 94.
1 in 94.
1 in 94. But you have a son.
I do. My middle son, Timothy, who is 9 now, will be 10 in September, who is moderately autistic. And we came to the agency as a result of our diagnosis. Timmy was typically developing, 18, 20 months, perfectly fine. Eye contact, playing with other people, words, and then all of a sudden he started to display some disturbing behaviors. He would flap his hands, he wouldn't make eye contact with you, and then, worst of all, he started to lose his words. And as his vocabulary started to diminish, that's when we got worried. And we went to go see our pediatrician, who said, listen, there are some things here that I think you really need to go see a developmental pediatrician. And when we did, that's when she basically said, look, I strongly suspect that he has autism, and you're going to need to do some things. And we had never been aware of autism. Our first son, James, was normally developing, hit all his milestones, no problems whatsoever. And so we really didn't know where to go.
They probably told you, oh, well, it's the second child, he's not going to develop as quick anyway.
Well, I don't know if they told us that, but it was certainly something that we didn't sense as I would now, having lived with it for the last 6 years, that I would see as an indication that there was a problem. And so, one of the things my wife Lorraine did was she went out and gathered as much information as she could, and that's how she found COSAC at the time, which is now Autism New Jersey. And at that time, they were offering a parent series. And what that was this was at St. Joe's in Patterson, but it's offered by the agency all over the state, in all the counties. It was several weekends, Saturday and Sunday, for a number of hours, free of charge, where you could go and benefit from the agency's expertise, so they could explain to you what types of physicians you needed to see, what were your expectations in terms of what governmental services were there, what services were needed, what's occupational therapy, what's physical therapy, what's speech therapy. And because of the information that we learned during that parent series that was provided to us by Autism New Jersey, that's how we got started on the road to helping Timmy out. And everything that we do for Autism New Jersey and everything that we hope them do is rooted in the debt that I owe them for helping me out with my son.
Right. And Autism New Jersey has a blueprint for a lifetime of support called Connecting with Autism, a blueprint lifetime of support. And I'll go ahead and get a shot of that. But I want you to explain to the audience, autism, it's a communication. It's a communication issue. And when you say autism, it can mean a lot of different things.
Sure.
Some people think Rain Man. Some people think, well, they just don't make eye contact, or they might want to hold on to a certain toy or something. It's a very wide range.
It is. We characterize
autism spectrum disorder.
That's exactly right. We characterize it as people being placed on the autism spectrum, which can be anywhere from extremely severe, that the people have no verbal skills, no skills with life, very difficult to manage any task in their daily lives, to people who are extremely high functioning, who if you met on the street you would never know that they had a diagnosis. And that's one of the difficulties with the spectrum, is that it's so wide and encompasses so many things that there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. And that was part of the genesis of the blueprint, because as we developed the system for services for children, we then in 2006 issued a white paper on adult services, because we thought that was the next area where services were going to be needed. And so naturally growing out of that was, okay, we've looked at children's services, we've looked at adult services, how do we combine the two, and how do we come up with this aptly titled Blueprint for Life, which is how do we go about making the people with autism, getting them the services that they need, helping them be productive members of society. And that's what this document is. This document represents over 2,000 hours of interviews with over 500 130 people ranging from parents to siblings to professionals to first responders to legislators to get information about what it is the system for dealing with this disorder can do and what it can look like in an uplifting way. It is a very positive document. It's filled with hope. It's filled with wishes. It's filled with wants in terms of what do I do to make my person, my special person who is on the spectrum, whether it's my brother, whether it's my sister, whether it's my son, how do I make their life better, and how do we go about getting them to be integrated into society, and what it is that blueprint will look like, and that's what that document is, and represents a ton of work by a ton of really dedicated people.
There is a lot of misinformation or perhaps stereotypes about autism, and some of them, we've got a graphic, you know, some of the classic symptoms associated with autism is little or no eye contact, they don't speak, they can become withdrawn, and then there's also the hand flapping. They can be have no fear. But again, the blueprint is going to help you navigate that system, because it is so overwhelming to hear those words, you know, my child is autistic or my child is on the spectrum, and a lot of times you don't know what services are out there, or just getting a diagnosis. In New Jersey, how difficult is it? Because, and I'll share this with the audience, I have a son who was diagnosed on the spectrum, very, very mild, but it took me 1.5 years to see a neurodevelopmental pediatrician, because there aren't enough pediatricians out there to see the children. So how difficult is it in New Jersey? Does everybody have to, you know, wait that long?
You know, I don't think they have to wait that long, but as with anything, early intervention is really the key.
Now, a lot of people don't know that counties in New Jersey provide early intervention services, because a lot of times places will say, well, you have to wait until they're 4 years old before you qualify for certain services. But a team of specialists can come out free of charge to evaluate your child while you're waiting sometimes for these specialists to see your children.
And that's one of the things that I'm so proud that the agency does, is the agency's website, and we're building the navigator as we speak, is just that. It's a navigator for that, is to go through on the website, if I have a diagnosis, what kind of services can I get? What type of early intervention programs are there? Where can I turn in my area? And that's really key. You know, the website will take you wherever you live in this state, whether you live in Bergen County, or you live in Cape May County, or you live in Cumberland County, or you live in Middlesex County. Wherever you live, the website will be able to navigate you and help you navigate that system so that you can find what you need to find. Because the goal is to get prompt services. The goal is to get early intervention, because we find that the earlier intervention, the better chance we have of being successful with the treatments that are out there. And so information is always the key. Information and access. And that's really two of the cornerstones that the blueprint is built on, is information, access, and then compassionate services delivered in a timely fashion throughout the lifespan.
Now, you can call 1-800-4-AUTISM, or you can go to AutismNJ.org to get more information on this blueprint and to look at some of the other tremendous resources and advice that you have. But again, you know, getting the diagnosis, people are overwhelmed. They just don't know where to turn. You were fortunate to where you could have somebody come to your home and help your son. There are a lot of people out there who are barely making ends meet, and occupational therapy, physical therapy, certain things that the children need to help develop them so that they can hopefully be mainstreamed into school when the time comes at a high cost. Are there free services? Are there affordable services for people who may not have the means?
Well, there are affordable services, and you know, about 1.5 years ago, the agency, along with some other autism groups in the state, really were the pinpoints, the point people in getting through the legislature the insurance reform bill that mandates coverage for those services for people with health insurance. So that was a significant stride forward in getting people who had health insurance, you know, really needed that for themselves, but could never get it covered, those services for their child with autism, because they weren't medically necessary, in quotes, and under the insurance rules. And then when they changed and now there's mandatory coverage, that opened up a whole spectrum of services that now could be provided for that people really need, because depending where you are on the spectrum, you're going to need occupational or speech or physical therapy as part of your behavioral therapy to make the progress you can make.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, services and support, and also adults coping with autism and what families can do to help. Stay with us as we continue here on this edition of Eye on Ocean County.
In a military warehouse south of Washington, D.C., things have quieted down for the evening. Earlier today, volunteers stuffed over 10,000 USO care packages and sent them to our troops around the world, full of little things that carry an enormous message. Little things like thank you, like we'll never forget you. Little things. We're all about the little things. We're the USO. So are you. Find out how you can get involved at uso.org.
Brick by brick, stone by stone, we built a place to call our own. Gonna fill it up with laughter, write my happy ever after. 'Cause for the first time in my life I'm holding the key to a brand new life waiting on me. That's what makes a house a home. Across the country and around the world, thousands of Habitat homeowners and millions of volunteers know the joy and pride of seeing a house become a home. A brighter future, one family at a time. Support Habitat's work in your community. Volunteer, get involved and help build it. Visit habitat.org. That's what makes a house a home.
Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Understanding connections between people and places is critical. So we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free action kit. Help kids understand their world today so they can succeed in it tomorrow.
Thanks for staying with us here on Eye on Ocean County. My guest this half hour is Jim Paone. He is the Board of Trustees President for Autism New Jersey, and we've been talking about signs and symptoms, getting a diagnosis, and some of the services available. Ultimately, the goal of getting services is so that a child can ultimately function in society. Hopefully, by the time they get to school, if they get it early enough, be mainstreamed. Now, I just used a few key buzzwords that some of the folks out there watching may not understand. So can you talk about the importance of that early intervention and trying to get your child mainstreamed?
Well, look, it's the goal of every parent who receives a diagnosis that isn't a normal diagnosis to do whatever they can to get their child back to being a healthy, happy individual. And so everybody's goal through all of what we're attempting is to do the best that we can for those of us who have loved ones on the spectrum. So early intervention is basically noting the diagnosis, getting it quickly, developing a therapy program, getting the services that you need to help your child progress and develop. Because the more early intervention we have, the data tells us that those people who have earlier access to services tend to do better. And so that's the goal, is to mainstream them, which means get them into the classroom with their peers so that they can enjoy their lives, socialize with people their own age, get out, have fun, and as adults, socialize with their peers, have a job, live in their own apartment, live in their own house, meet other people, go out, be able to navigate the world without being in danger of either hurting themselves or someone else.
You know what I find interesting? My daughter is in elementary school, and it seems that there are a lot of specialists who will come into the classroom and perhaps pull a child out. And what I find interesting is that I know that they're getting services, but I think that teachers are starting to become very aware as not to make a child feel segregated and left out, or there'll be a teacher's aide in the classroom. Can you talk a little bit about that as a child starts to enter into school and tries to stay and keep up with his classmates? You know, because you want them to feel like they're just the same as Sally or Susan or Joe sitting next to them.
Well, that's one of the things that the agency also does very well, is that it spends a lot of its time educating educators, educating first responders, educating police, fire, to be aware of those things, to be aware of someone who's developing and someone who's making progress, to understand that they need supports, but also to be inclusionary. I mean, Autism New Jersey has a conference every year, and this year it's in October the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and it's one of the, if not the largest conference in the country on autism. We will have 90 to 100 workshops and 1,000 people a day down in Atlantic City, and a lot of those workshops are geared to just those issues, are geared towards helping teachers, helping professionals understand what the needs of the children in their class are and what the needs of the autistic child in their class are, and how to integrate those things and how to deal with them and how to make everybody understand and how to cope. Same thing with siblings. You know, there are courses and there are lectures about how to help your sibling deal with the autistic child that's in their family, and to not be jealous or not be taken aback by the fact that sometimes, in my case, my son Timmy needs a little more attention than my son James or my son Mark.
And there are support groups that parents can join. There's one in Toms River, Children's Specialized Hospital,
right,
that parents can go to. And again, you can go to the website AutismNJ.org to find out more information. Because I think when you are able to connect with other parents, it kind of makes you feel like you're not so alone. Because again, hearing those words, you know, your child is on the autism spectrum disorder, or your child is autistic, can seem like an overwhelming thing. You know, how am I going to deal with this? Because it's a lifetime of management.
It is. It's a lifetime of management. You're always looking to improve. You're always looking to make steps forward, but you're always looking to make sure that what's best for your child in that particular situation gets done. And so, yeah, especially, you know, we're now focusing more on adult issues, because children can age out of the educational system 21, 22, 23, and part of, as I indicated, the white paper that we published in 2006 that's built into this blueprint is, what's that next step? What does it look like? What, you know, where are there group homes? Can I have my child live with somebody else? Can I get some assistance with even my adult child in terms of respite? Can somebody come in with an adult and say, spend an hour or two and help continue to work on the therapies, or help them get to work? Is there a shuttle that can take them to and from? Is there an employer who's going to be sympathetic to hire somebody who does require more supervision, who does require a little bit more emphasis in terms of getting their job done? Because what we find is, when we find those employers and we match up people on the autism spectrum, they do wonderfully there. They love to be at work, they're happy to be at work, and they're happy to be productive. And so that's the goal, is to always make people move forward, put their best foot forward. As I told you before, the blueprint is a blueprint of hope. It's a blueprint of what the services will look like and how it will look in a society where our autistic people are cared for and are looked after and are helped from birth through their adult life.
Right. Right, and when you talk about that help, again, getting this diagnosis, it just seems so overwhelming. And you know, where does it stop? You the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, and then you think at one point, you know, well, you know, as a parent, you always hope to outlive your child. You know, what happens to my child if I'm not around, or am I always going to be I mean, you're always a parent to your child, but will they always have to live with me? Will there have to be a group home that you go into?
You know, those are all concerns that everybody has, and the best thing you can do is learn as much as you possibly can, consult with your professionals in terms of what methods are proven effective, what's grounded in science, what is, you know, supported by data and information to be helpful in those things, and to continue to persevere. Because only, at least from my experience, through continuing to persevere, to always being there for whoever it is you're caring for, helps them so much. And so, you know, that is a consequence of the diagnosis. And we're all hoping that at one day and at one time, you know, it won't be that we'll have developed a plan to help all of our people on the spectrum transition into mainstream life at whatever stage it's possible.
Right.
And so, but those are just some of the things that one has to deal with when you have an autistic child.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and caring for an autistic adult as we continue here on Eye on Ocean County. Our guest this half hour is Jim Paone. He is the Board of Trustees President of Autism New Jersey. Stay with us.
Energy prices are just too high. That's what drove us to attempt the first static electricity-powered home. Success has been elusive. Besides making the house itself more energy efficient, the smartest thing we did was adding Energy Star products. Static electricity may not be viable, but at least we've taken a step for our future. Anybody can make their home more energy efficient.
Good night, sweetie. Good night, Mommy.
Our eyes met from across the room, and he was irresistible. Hi, I'm Rochelle Lefebvre, and this is Johnny. We're working with Best Friends Animal Society to create a day when there are no more homeless pets. Each year, millions of dogs suffer horrendous conditions in puppy mills, whose sole purpose is to make money for the people who supply puppies to pet stores across the country. Meanwhile, about 4,000 dogs are killed every day in American shelters. You can help stop this. Together, we can ensure that all of America's dogs have families of their own. When searching for your next best friend, go to your local shelter and rescue a great dog like Johnny. Do what I did. Adopt. Don't shop. Let a shelter dog like Johnny steal your heart.
Explore her grandeur. Appreciate her beauty. Protect her for tomorrow. Recycle your old rechargeable batteries. Call 877-2-RECYCLE or visit us online at calltorecycle.org.
We're back here on Eye on Ocean County. I'm Laura Jones, and this half hour we've been talking with Jim Paone, Board of Trustees President of Autism New Jersey. Jim, we don't know what causes autism. We don't know if it's something biological or if it's something in the environment, but the fact of the matter is more cases in New Jersey than anywhere else. Why do you think that is?
You know, it's true we don't have a cause, and you know, people are looking, various researchers are looking at a whole bunch of different things. I tend to believe, and this is purely a personal opinion, that the quality of the medical care in the state of New Jersey, the quality of the education system, and the quality of the record keeping lead us to have more identifiable cases of autism because the information is there, the science is here, the quality of the care is here, so that when people are going to their physicians, they're able to track what the children are doing, they're able to get access to the testing that they need, and they're able to be more precise in their diagnosis, even along the spectrum. You know, not just that people are autistic, but they can either be severely, moderate, mild, Asperger's. You know, the precision with which that diagnosis is made in New Jersey, I think, contributes to the numbers being high. I don't think it lessens the fact that there are that many people in New Jersey who have autism, but I think it really lends itself to a credible number because of the quality of the services that the people are getting.
When I was in elementary school, I remember there was a child in particular, and they would say, well, he's just hyperactive. He needs his Ritalin. Do you think that, and autism wasn't a phrase that I was really familiar with until the past 15, 20 years. Has autism, that phrase, the diagnosis, been more prevalent, or because there are more people? Are doctors becoming better educated as opposed just to saying, well, this person just is hyperactive, or sometimes they would just say, well, they're mentally retarded?
Well, I think it's a combination of a bunch of those things. I think, you know, since Autism New Jersey has been around for so long and has helped people with autism for so long, we've seen a refining of the diagnosis. We've seen, and I believe this from my own personal experience with the medical profession, that each and every person that's come into contact with my son cares deeply about who he is and doing the best thing for him. So I think the science has evolved. I think the diagnostic tools have evolved. And so we have a larger number across a broader spectrum because we realize that it's not something that's specifically diagnosable like the flu or some other biological disorders, that because it's a neurological developmental disability, that it manifests itself in so many ways that it just took time to understand, you know, all the various different grades of the disorder.
Right, and again, it is such a broad array, just like you said, and it can manifest itself in so many different ways that a lot of times you don't even realize somebody might be on the spectrum because they've gotten the services they need. And again, it's that early intervention that's key.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell because, like I said, there's so many people there who are higher functioning people who have autism, and then there are so many people out there who fit your description, who have come through therapy, who have come through early intervention, who have gotten what they needed to get, and who have been fortunate to respond to the therapy so that they've grown and progressed to the point where you can't tell. And that's obviously, as I said before, as a parent, that's what we all want. We would all want to be in that stage where, you know, our children or our siblings or whoever get to that point. And, you know, the agency is committed, Autism New Jersey is committed to helping people any way they can through, you know, good information, good science, reliable programs, education, getting the information you need, all of that through our website, through our conference, to getting people that information because that's what they need to help their particular loved one.
And I think that parents in particular, as they get older, they worry, okay, what about my autistic child when they turn 50, when they turn 60, when they turn 70? We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know how it's necessarily going to get better or perhaps get worse because of services available or if people will be lumped in. Do you see hope on the horizon for those aging with Alzheimer's?
I do, and what I see and what we've done with the blueprint is that was our mission, is to develop that whole lifespan view so that we have a vision of what it will look like when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're 70, and have a vision now of what the service system will look like, what the available assets will be, and when I say a vision, so that we can help create those things, so that the agency can be a force for change in terms of its public policy and its advocacy to make that a reality, because we have an adult population, but because of the changes in the diagnostic tools, we're going to have an expanding adult population over the next several decades, and it's going to increase. And so that's one of the theories behind the blueprint, is to sort of create that system you were just describing, so that we look at it now, we invest our time and our energy now into crafting what it should look like so that we can answer those questions clearly and concisely for those people as they age through the system.
Right, so as they become a senior citizen, they're not necessarily lumped into one area where they can have the services and continue into their 70s and 80s being a productive member of society. And I think that's really, you know, what all parents want. So if a parent out there is watching and they are a little concerned, what advice do you have for them? Of course, you can go to the website, but what's the best thing to do? Take them to your
If you have a concern, you should go to your doctor and you should voice that concern. You should raise the issue, ask the questions. The key to everything is information, is reliable, scientifically based information. Get as much as you can. Use the website. Go on the navigator. It will answer your questions about where you can go. Get as much information as you can and try and find out what will be best for your particular person.
All right, Jim Payon, thank you so much for
Thank you
taking
so
time
much,
and
Laura.
for sharing your story and for all that Autism New Jersey does. Again, you can go to the website, AutismNJ.org. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Eye on Ocean County.